Hello and welcome to Undivided. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your commitment to giving common sense a comeback. I'm Brandi Kruse. Coming up, we are in search of solutions today. It's not enough just to complain about what's happening in the state of Washington. Can we fix it? Can we come up with better ideas? I told you guys this week, we're spending time trying to figure out how to get out of this long-term care disaster. So the long-term care tax started on July 1st. Yesterday on the show, we had on Senator John Braun, the Senate minority leader, to talk about legislatively what could be done, what might be done. On the flip side of things, there's also an opportunity right now for every single voter in Washington state to sign their name to an initiative. Hopefully you're not intimidated and harassed out of doing it, but to sign your name to an initiative to make the long-term care tax optional. The man behind that initiative will join us coming up next. Okay, so yesterday we talked about, are our lawmakers going to be willing and have the political will to do anything in January to fix this long-term care tax debacle? You know, now that people are seeing that money come out of their paychecks, I think you're going to have some momentum to say, this thing doesn't make any sense. I don't want this program. I never asked for this program. And it's common sense to say, make it optional. If someone does not want this benefit from the government, they ought to have a right to opt out of it. And so there's a man named Heywood. You've probably heard of him because he last year did a bunch of initiative efforts as well. And so he's putting his efforts behind 6 new initiatives right now. But in particular, there's one initiative that would be an initiative to the legislature and would say, hey, the people of Washington state want the long-term care tax to be optional. So I invited Heywood in to talk about it. Heywood, welcome back to Undivided.
Thanks. It's great to be here, Brandi.
So you're diving into more initiatives. Why do you do this to yourself?
That's a question I ask myself every morning.
Why do you do this to your
pocketbook? Because if someone doesn't go and fight, everybody's pocketbook is going to get hit. And I've moved here from California because all this garbage was going on. And there was nothing. It got to a point in California where there was no way to push back. It just was too far gone. And I moved here. And it was just so beautiful in Washington. Oh, my goodness, right? It's just such a great place to live. And then it started happening. And so I don't want to move again, right? I want to stay here. And I don't want to change the state. I just want to bring it back to where it was. Like, just fix the stupid stuff that's been happening. So.
Yeah. Well, I love how we've talked about this on the show before, but I love how your escape from the craziness of California was like California's like ugly stepdaughter. You know, it's like, right. No, you could have done Texas or something, but that's your fault. Now here we are. So I want to talk first about long-term care.
Okay.
So this has been a disaster since the beginning. I think we all know that. And the real frustration for folks is the inability to opt out of it. You know, that window was so small. And it's like, well, gosh, if you're someone who knows, I'm not even going to use this. I'm going to move out of state. I already have plans to retire somewhere else. You're still seeing the money come out of your paycheck. So yesterday on the show, we talked about what the legislature might be able to do to right the ship a little bit. Right. But you are trying to give the people an opportunity to right the ship. How?
So there's a couple of ways to do initiatives. One is a legislative initiative to the people. And that's got a very short window to qualify, and then it goes immediately on the ballot that year. Mm-hmm. I'm not doing that.
Okay.
The second is an initiative to the legislature. And so we have until the end of December to collect signatures, and then it goes to the legislature in January. So if there's enough pain or enough heat or enough excitement about something, the legislature could actually take this and sign it right away in January, and it becomes law.
So on the not sending it to the people, that's just because you've seen that window of time, the number of signatures, it's really tough to do.
Too short and too expensive.
Okay.
But the benefit of doing it to the legislature is you get 2 bites at the apple. If the legislature ignores it and says, we don't like this, we don't have anything to do with it, or we're going to ignore what the people think, it automatically goes on the ballot next year.
Gotcha.
So we either get it to the legislature or we'll get it on the ballot and everyone will be able to vote for it in 2024.
And either way, I would say it's still about the people because you need enough signatures from people to tell the legislature, hey, this is for you. How many signatures do you need before December?
You need qualified signatures. You need about 324,000 and change. They suggest you gather around 400,000.
Yeah. So what's the initiative number and when and where can people start signing the thing?
So the number is 2124. It's opt out of the state-run Long-Term Care Coverage Act. You can go to letsgowa.com, and there's no apostrophes, just letsgowa.com. And it'll have the initiative itself, so you can read the initiative. You can get comfortable that it's something you support. There's the summary, and then you can click through and actually read the law itself. And on the same page are locations where you can go and sign.
When it comes to public opinion on this issue, I mean, there's been polling done. If this were voted on by every voter in Washington today, it would be reversed.
It would fail miserably.
Right.
And I think that what has happened actually to me is sort of sneaky, right? They came out with the law. It was published. Everybody started hearing about it.
Yeah.
And there was a massive public backlash. And so they kicked it down the road 2 years into a non-even year election year. So it's quiet. We won't say anything. And it sort of quietly took effect on July 1st. And there was the news was complicit with the secrecy. The legislature was not saying anything about it. It just sort of happened, and you're going to find out about it in either this week or in another couple of weeks when you get your paychecks.
It was, and I always believed, and I know there were issues that had to be fixed with it, but I always believed that the reason they gave in and pushed it down the road was because of the election year.
Yes.
They're like, we don't want that going into effect.
It was a negative.
And then I don't even know it was so much like the media was intentionally complicit in keeping it silent before the payroll deductions began, but there was so much other crazy crap happening. Like
Fair enough,
there was
right.
so much competing attention. So just to be clear, and I think that you said it, but let's just say it again. This would not reverse it. It would give you the option.
Opt-out.
It
Yeah.
makes it optional.
Yes.
Now, what's
I'm
controversial about
pro-choice,
that?
so.
I'm pro-choice. Are you pro-choice? People are going to want to know. So you're doing this and I would also note you're trying to hire. You've done initiatives before.
Yes.
Hard to do it with volunteers only.
Really hard.
So,
but they're important that
you still need volunteers.
You do.
Yeah.
Yes.
But if there are people out there who are looking for a job, you're hiring.
I need
signature
100
gatherers.
to 200 people. I'll hire them.
How much are you paying them?
$18 to $20 an hour.
So to go collect signatures.
That's right.
For something that'll make the state better.
And especially if you believe in this, it's an easy sell, right? You're not trying to sell something that you don't believe in. So, and I've got 6 initiatives in total. People can go online and look at them. But if they go to letsgowa.com,
Yeah.
right there, right now it's at the bottom of the front page, but we're just moving it up to the top. You can just click through right to where you can apply for a job.
But you mentioned there's other initiatives that are going on.
That's right.
And some of them are, Nicole told me, she was like expressing concern the other day that we don't want to become the initiative people. We don't want to become like the Tim Imans. You can't have all these events on. And I was like, well, if things wouldn't be so crazy, we wouldn't have to go and
motto.
do this stuff. So it's
exactly
like,
right.
you know what? If I have to be the weird initiative lady, like Tim, if you have to be the Tim Iman 2.0 to fix the state, fine. Nicole, I'm fine being the weird one. But you are simultaneously gathering signatures so when people go to sign this one,
Yes.
they're going to see other ones with it.
There's another 5.
And I would argue that all of them, if you support this one, you'll probably support the other ones. But for instance, the Pursuit Bill. Can you talk about your initiative on that?
Yes. In fact, we were just talking, we were doing Project 42 as well. I'm involved with that. And we had several groups that were representing police officers, asking them what do they need and what are the important things to them. And pursuit is still something very important to them. And what I was concerned about is there were 2 big bills in this last legislative session that were needing to be addressed. The Blake decision was one of them. They messed around with it enough that I don't think it's worth running an initiative to try to fix it.
And that's the drug use
That's
one.
the drug use one.
Drug possession.
The second one, though, was pursuit, and they messed around with it only a tiny bit. And the basic nature of what was done was, in the original law, it said, if an officer believes that a crime is being committed and there is public safety risk, they may pursue.
Yeah.
And then every city had its own training, and there were different regulations. So it wasn't uniform, but there was sort of this common sense basis. What the new law did is it flipped it on its head, and it said only these 4 or 5 things will allow you to chase.
Yeah.
But the problem with that, number one, is that then the police officer has to go down a checklist. Can I chase? Does it meet this criteria? The legislature used the word dangerous or violent crime, something like that. It has to be a violent crime.
Yeah.
But we were talking with one of these police organizations, and they said the police could be standing there and someone is selling a young child, and that doesn't qualify under the violence thing. So they couldn't pursue. If the person took off, they couldn't pursue.
Well, the issue
That's
is the
crazy.
confusion.
Yes.
And like you said, in the moment, like I hear Governor Inslee all the time touting the training of law enforcement in our state, how it has been so improved and our training is top notch. Well, then why are you not giving officers an opportunity to rely on that training to make a judgment call in the moment about, do I pursue this person? Is it in the best interest of public safety? And the polling is also on your side on this one.
Yeah,
so Future 42 did a poll, and they asked people about the pursuit bill. The majority of people who gave an answer to that poll said that they wanted to go back to the pre-2021 law.
And before I did any of these initiatives, I polled them all with my own money on my own poll.
Yeah.
And police pursuit was the highest overall. I did a poll in King, Snohomish, and Pierce, and it skewed to Democrats. So this wasn't some sort of self-serving Republican echo chamber kind of thing. And overwhelmingly, like almost 89% of the people supported or saw as a high priority restoring police pursuit.
Because they got common sense. They just need to be given a chance to exercise it. We've got a little time left. Like you said, letsgowa.com. Letsgowa.com. They can look at the whole suite of initiatives that you're putting forth. Right. The other one I want to make sure to highlight, because we've talked about it on the show, gas prices are up. I don't know if you knew this, but Jay Inslee won't tell you this, but it is.
We're number one. We're
number one. It's like the only thing we're number one at. But it is obviously because of the carbon tax. So
Yes.
do you have an initiative to deal with that?
We do. We have a full-on repeal of the carbon tax credit system that was put in place. And I think that one of the things I think that people need to understand, we're trying to help educate this because it was done in I believe, a purposely deceptive way. It's just carbon tax. It's for the environment. As soon as you say that, it sort of washes away all sins. But this was done in a way that the tax wouldn't be apparent in a direct way that you could calculate it directly. You had to have think tanks go in and figure out how this is impacting. And all of the think tanks were suggesting that the tax itself would increase gas prices by anywhere from sort of 40 cents to as much as $1. The zone was 40 to 50 cents. And I think it's spot on from what we've seen. Is it's right there.
Yeah, they were up by 1 penny.
Yeah.
The Washington Policy Center. It's like, I wonder who's lying. And I tend to agree with you that if you have people who I think we all love the environment, right? We have different ways of going about how to take care of the environment, and is it public or private sector? But I think if Jay Inslee had come out and said, you know what, this is going to increase gas prices, but that's what we want it to do.
Right,
we want fewer people to be guzzling gas, and I think it's the best thing to do for the environment. I would disagree with it still, but I would have much more respect for
It would have
him.
at least been an honest discussion, right? Instead of this, this is not going to cost you hardly anything, and it doesn't really matter. And
pennies. And then you don't let people plan. There are people who need to, you like, can I plan a carpool? This is going to have an impact on my budget. But you don't give anybody an opportunity to plan, and you spring it on them. So I love that you have an initiative to repeal that thing. So these are all great. They're all common sense. Again, letsgowa.com. Thanks for doing this with your own money. We sure do appreciate it. Somebody's got to do it.
My pleasure.
Brian Heywood, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Brandi.
And in the interest of full transparency, I should note that Brian Heywood is a funder for Future 42, of which I am an ambassador for, in an effort to give common sense come back in Washington State. Also, if you are wondering, well, gosh, some of those initiatives sound great. Where do I sign them? I have a good opportunity for you. So Brian is going to be holding the Summer Freedom Fest at his private property, Willow Crest Stables. I have this, it's in Redmond. I have this on all my social media pages. And they've invited, all the big, from both parties, by the way, political candidates. We know for sure Dave Reichert is going to be there. Semi Bird is going to be there. Raul Garcia is going to be there. KVI's John Carlson and I are going to be hosting the event. And all of those initiatives that Brian Heywood just mentioned are going to be there for you to sign. I should also note that we're going to debut our Undivided swag at the Summer Freedom Fest. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your commitment to giving common sense a comeback. Nicole will be back on the show tomorrow. Daryl, thank you. It has been an absolute pleasure.